You are listening to the 90 Days Later podcast with Anna Charles, episode 222. Welcome to the 90 Days Later podcast, where we talk about what really happens when you take a break from drinking. And it turns out to be the best thing you've ever done. I'm Anna, coach to high achievers who are done waking up with regret and ready to feel in control around alcohol. If you've ever wondered what your life could look like with less wine and more you, you're in the right place. Hello everybody and welcome back to the podcast. All right, today I have a treat in store for you, something a little different. I'm introducing you to Ishali, one of my lovely clients who has just finished working with me. Now, Ishali's story is interesting because she talks a lot about identity and how she sees herself and her confidence and how so much in her life has changed simply because she has rerouted and changed her relationship with alcohol. This is first-hand evidence of something I talk about a lot, right, with our identity and how we see ourselves and how we show up in the world. So this is such fun to share with you. This is what is possible. This is what is possible for you too. If you just put your hand up and say, right, I'm going to set my mind to this, I'm going to do the work, and I can help you do that. It would be my pleasure to help you do that. I want you to be on a future version of this podcast talking about all the wonderful ways in which your life has changed simply because you decided to trust yourself and get started on this. If you want to do that, go to 90dayslater.co and click on the book a call button. We will chat on that call. We're going to talk about where you are, where you want to be, and I will build the exact path to get you to your desired relationship with alcohol, just as I once did with Ishali. So Ishali, so lovely to see you again. Welcome back. It's been a little while. So before we get into the details, maybe can you tell me a little bit about yourself and how you would describe your drinking before we started working together?
Someone who I would say has always had alcohol in their life. I've had periods of sobriety but I've always sort of gone back to drinking.
Mhm.
And I've never really felt comfortable with the amount of alcohol that I drink. I've never really felt comfortable with the fact that there were a lot of times when I drank more than I was intending.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided after having a period of 6 months of sobriety even, struggling with that word today, I then was sort of started to drink again, not as much as I had before, but I was drinking again, and there had been times when I drank more than I wanted, and I decided to get a bit more curious about being sober. And actually, I came across Anna through Instagram and following out a lot of alcohol-free accounts.
Mm-hmm.
And I think my drinking at that time it was definitely not every day by any means, but there were times when I drank more than I wanted or more than I'd planned to, and that was what I considered a bit of an issue for me, and that's really what I came to you, Anna, to sort of talk about and explore.
Okay, perfect. Now, before this, you talk about you had a moment of sobriety there for 6 months. Had you tried other things to get yourself to where you wanted to be?
So when I had committed to being sober, before I had used the I Am Sober app. So I was tracking, obviously, my days of sobriety. And I think that what sort of I didn't like about that, or what didn't really quite work for me, was firstly that if you sort of had one drink, then you're sort of back to square one. You sort of lose your track and you've got to start at day zero. And that was pretty demotivating.
Mm.
Um, and then I don't really think the focus is very much on just tracking,
Mm.
rather than really looking at root causes, I would say, or honestly looking at patterns and things like that. So yeah, so that was pretty much what I'd relied on at that period of time.
Okay. So when you reached out to me because you saw my Instagram stuff, why did you decide that it was time to change, that you were going to do it?
I think I had just got to a point where, everything else in my life was pretty much as I suppose I was in control, or I was happy with a lot of things in my life, apart from this one area where I kept thinking that I don't have this under control. And it was something that I just wanted to feel in control of.
Okay. And did you know how that was to look specifically? But it was just really about that was what you wanted. You wanted to feel in control.
I think when I started, I definitely wasn't expecting to decide not to drink completely or to stop
Mm.
completely. But what I did want was to be able to feel confident and relaxed around alcohol, and not
Right.
and be confident that I could, I was in control of my relationship to it. I think that's what I was coming into. I definitely didn't come into it thinking the goal is to stop drinking.
Right. All right. So you reached out to me, we had a chat, and then you decided to proceed. Did you have any concerns or worries at that time about that decision or anything to do with that?
You mean the decision to start coaching?
Hmm. Yeah.
No, I think your approach, Anna, just felt very positive, very supportive, and very much aligned with helping me get to where I wanted to get, rather than trying to push an outcome on me.
Hmm.
So it was that I found to be really, really helpful, and it made me feel very comfortable about starting the process.
Okay. So that's good to hear. So let's talk about planning and desire and things, because that's a big piece of what I talk about. We talk about a lot about planning and intention. And the reason we do that is we build trust in ourselves that you become the person who does what she says she will do around alcohol, right? So that we end up doing the things because we're taking that process. Any thoughts on that and how that worked for you?
Yeah, I think that was really the first tool that started to build my confidence around alcohol. And I think I suppose demanding is the wrong word, but not expecting, you know, zero alcohol intake during the coaching process, I think was really, really important for me, because it allowed me, planning the drinks allowed me to just feel, to build the confidence that, oh, I planned one drink. I had one drink. I planned 5 drinks, whatever the number was, I had five. And just that very sort of that seeing that pattern actively sort of and tracking it and thinking about it ahead of time really started to build my confidence around it. So yeah, that to me, that was actually one of the best tools, and I still use my tool as well.
Yes. Yeah. So, related to planning, we talk again a lot about desire, that it is
Mm.
possible to change your desire for alcohol. And it's kind of, it's really, I see it as taking the drama out of the situation, right? Because we have this feeling that we're always going to have this pull and it's just going to be too much and all of those things. And that it actually does become easier to drink less and even to not drink. Any thoughts on that? How was that for you?
Yeah, so I mean, I think first of all, starting on paying attention to the urges and the desires was really eye-opening for me, because when you actually start to track and understand what is triggering the urge, then and you start actually becoming way more aware of what, feelings and thoughts create that is really, really, really valuable knowledge. And then you start to, I think a lot of the work I found really helpful with Asana was when you were talking to me about identifying thoughts, and then what feelings the thoughts created, and then that understanding how much power you actually have over even something like an urge, something that you think is uncontrollable, Like, I think that was really, really powerful for me as well, to help understand where those desires, when those desires occur and what's really going on at that moment is sort of, it kind of, I would say the urge over time has less power over you and you can choose to react a different way.
Right. So this is understanding what's going on behind the scenes rather than just tracking, because we do obviously we track, but rather than just tracking drinks, right? It's understanding that. Okay. So how would you describe your drinking now or your relationship with alcohol now?
So now I don't drink at all, which as I said at the beginning, I didn't really go into it at the beginning with a set intention around that, but it has just become something that is not part of my identity anymore. I think part of the tracking is, the planning is that you need to have a good reason for drinking, and always got to have a reason. It doesn't have necessarily have to be a good one, but it just has to be a reason. And I think as I went through the coaching process over 6 months, the reason why just kept, but not being, it became less and less compelling for me to go ahead and schedule a drink to have after a hard day or at a birthday or something like that. I mean, I think the social sort of those kind of occasions initially was something that I thought, oh, I'd still want to be able to continue to drink in those situations. But actually, I, I'm now at the point where I don't feel that that's necessary for me at all. I think alcohol has become, it's not important anymore. I think that's what, it's not any more important to me than a drink of blackcurrant squash or a tea, or it's just an alcoholic drink, and I think I I definitely wouldn't want to label myself as sober. Like if, for example, when we talked about this, Anna, didn't we? Like if there's some alcohol in tiramisu, then or in a, I'm not going to say, oh, I've got to stay away from that. It's not something that's going to bother me. And I've also, you know, I've taken sips out of my friends' cocktails just to compare with the non-alcoholic versions that I've been choosing. And I don't consider that, I still consider myself to be alcohol free because but I don't really want to, I don't think a label is necessary. And I'm not scared of alcohol. And I think that's a really big thing for me.
Right. That's the big difference to that period of sobriety you had before. And I think it was 6 months or so. And I'm saying
Yeah.
that's just part of who you are, is you just choose to not do this because it doesn't fit your identity. I think that's really compelling.
Yeah, it just feels different because it's just not an issue. It's just
Yeah.
not a thing. I think that's all I would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good. It's just not a
Yeah.
thing, right? And it's not that
Yeah.
you're scared of it. It just isn't. And this is so lovely to hear you say that because that's exactly what I want people to create. So, how has this change affected other areas of your life?
So I think it's helped me make a lot of other decisions that I have been wanting to make in my life, that I just haven't been able to, such as becoming vegetarian, becoming more more spiritual, and generally just introducing healthy habits into my life one way or another. And I think it's just been a real catalyst for that. And so a lot of changes have come out of that. And also, confidence in myself. I think that was, even though I felt that my confidence was not quite there around alcohol. Obviously, the fact that if you don't feel confident in one area of life, it does impact how you show up in other areas of your life. And I think it did have an impact. But the way I felt about myself or my previous relationship to alcohol, I think did affect deep
Mhm.
down confidence in other areas as well. So everything else has improved from that as well.
Right.
So
Right. I often say that I think our relationship with alcohol sits at the center of so many things. It has tentacles into every area of our life and how we see ourselves. And once we see we can change that, because it seems like unmovable, it seems like nothing is going to work here. When it does, it's like, okay, so what else can I do? What else can I do? So, what
Yeah.
would you say has been your favorite part of doing this work?
I think my favorite part of doing this work was like definitely the separation between me and my thoughts,
Mm.
because I think that's impacted me in a lot of other areas in my life. You know, it's made me a lot more aware of how my thoughts frame my reality, and that has had a knock-on effect on relationships that are really important to me, like my family relationships and things like that. Being able to step back and step outside my own thoughts and observe them and then challenge them, so I think that has been one of my favorite things that's come out of it. And obviously, Anna, your continual support and cheerleading was really, really, really helpful, and non-judgmental space coming up, whenever things didn't go to plan, just showing up and saying, okay, what are the good things? What are the positives? All right, now let's audit what happened. And, all that, just that constant sort of, that consistent way of dealing with each sort of issue as it came up really helped me. So
Excellent. So, 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 so good. And I just really want to thank you for coming back, talking about this openly. I mean, I think people are hearing your voice in your words, because I just want to dispel, there is so much shame around this, and I've got to hide away, and there must be something wrong with me, and all of that. So, what would you say to somebody who's listening to this and is maybe where you once were, or some variation they're in the before pattern where they think nothing's going to work and this isn't right, and all that fear, but they're worried. Is it worth, and they're thinking, is it worth it? And will it work for me? What would you say to that person?
I would say to that person that don't be afraid to take this first step. I would say that the journey is your journey. There's no prescribed destination. There's no one size fit all. Just take one small step and try it out. And you've got nothing to lose. I think that's what I would, and everything to gain. So that's what I would probably say.
Excellent. All right. Is there anything else that you want to add that I haven't asked you about, or that you'd like to comment on?
No, I just want to say a big thank you, Anna. This has just been a transformative experience for me. You've been absolutely brilliant, and you really understood my issues, my concerns, what's going on with me, and you took the time to do that. So I really, really appreciate that. And it's opened. This is just the start of a very long journey for me. I've got a very as a result of this part of my life being addressed, so many other things have opened up for me, really positive and exciting things in my life. And so I just want to say thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. And don't be a stranger. Do let me know. I
No,
will hear about all the things, because I know you have big plans, big changes, and it's just
yeah,
phenomenal to have
absolutely.
seen that.
Amazing. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Ishali. If this episode hit home and you're ready to explore what life could look like with alcohol in the back seat, let's talk. I work with people one-on-one who are ready to create the relationship with alcohol that works for them, so they feel powerful in their choices and at peace with their habits. Go to 90dayslater.co and click on book a call, or grab one of the free guides in the show notes to this episode. And if this podcast is helping you, a rating or review goes a long way to help others find this work too.